Welcome to the Power of Design podcast. My name is Jack Osa. I'm an architect, born and raised in Colombia, South America. Years ago, I migrated to the United States to follow my dreams, and today, I'm the founder and principal of Osa Studio, a multidisciplinary architectural design firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. In this podcast, we talk about design, business, creativity, and the inspiration we need to create an exciting and powerful built environment. In today's episode of the Power of Design podcast, I'm talking to my friend Michael Spencer. Michael is the Director of Corporate Facilities Design and Services at Lowe's companies in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is my conversation with Michael. Spencer, welcome to the Power of Design podcast. How are you today?
Good. Thanks for having me, Jack.
No, man. Been wanting to have you for many months, couple of years maybe.
Absolutely.
But you're special. So tell me about your day today. What do you do?
Well, I am work for Lowe's, the home improvement company, and I'm the Director of Corporate Facilities Design and Services. So I work at the corporate headquarters campus up in Mooresville, and my group is pretty much responsible for all of our corporate facilities. So we have around 25 to 30 or so facilities all throughout the country that are geared towards our corporate operations, regional offices, contact centers, data centers, and facilities of that nature. So I don't do much of anything on the retail side of facilities, but we have an amazing team that's focused on the corporate side.
Wow. So what kind of activities do you do daily?
Oh man, daily activities. A lot of meetings, working with architects and engineers on our projects. We have a lot of design discussions internally about, where we want the direction of our facilities to go, what we're kind of interested in, from a people, experience standpoint. Lots of time, working on things like project budgets and, really kind of figuring out, because not only are we responsible, for kind of the construction costs, but, as being on the owner's side of the equation now, I'm responsible for the total project cost.
Yes.
So contemplating, all of those little costs, that you've got along the way, down to move services and IT services and audiovisual and just everything that goes into, even hanging pictures on the wall, has a cost.
Yeah.
And, and it's all got to be, factored in.
Yeah. So in your experience so far working on the owner side, what do you think has been the most interesting surprise or breakthrough that you didn't see before when you were on the design side?
Well, I think, I'm just to tell you too a little bit about me, Jack. I know you know this, but I spent the first 21 years of my career on pretty much a traditional architectural path. I went to architecture school, graduated with my master's, went straight into professional practice at a design firm. And then I was in a design firm environment for basically the first 21 years of my career.
Yeah.
And basically in April, just this past April, actually, of this year, so about 9 months ago or so, I got this opportunity to come work for Lowe's on their corporate facilities team. And so this is kind of my first foray on the owner's side of the equation.
Yeah.
And it is so much fun. I am loving it. We have built an incredible team. I would say in terms of kind of the surprise factor, It's interesting when you're on the architect side of the equation. So often the architect might be the one asking the questions and expecting for the owner to respond and give information about programming and about space needs, and to kind of fill in all of those blanks. The owner needs to give direction basically to the architect. But now I'm on the owner's side of the equation. So the architects are asking me and my team all these questions about how big should it be? How many people are we needing to accommodate? And do you want, 6x6 workstations or 6x8 workstations? And quite honestly, and it's amazing. A lot of architects, they hang on every word you say. They write it down. They document it, just like I did for the first 21 years of my career, and even still. But being in that position where they're relying on me and my team for answers is definitely a new and exciting, aspect of this adventure.
Yeah, no, that's interesting because I think in any, professional services experience, you get the solution, the architect, the accountant, the attorney, but every person, every firm is going to give you a very different way to produce that result.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we've seen that. We've seen the exact same thing. Honestly, and we do work with multiple different design firms on our projects. And, quite frankly, even just in the time, like I said, that I've been on the owner's side of the equation, I can tell you that the experience that you get from different firms is different.
Yeah.
Firms do not approach problems in the same ways.
Yeah.
They bring different talent. They bring different ideas. And, we have a conversation on every single project about, which architect is going to be the best, really even from like a chemistry standpoint.
Sure.
And an ideas standpoint. Quite frankly, and, yes, cost factors in, and we have had some RFP events, towards, selection of professional services. But really it's the people side of the equation that ends up factoring in so heavily to that consideration.
Yeah.
So, and I know we're working currently on a project with
That's
you,
right.
Jack.
Yeah.
So,
Hope.
you guys are knocking it out of the ballpark.
That's right, man. Well, one of the things I'm very thankful for is that, the last experience when we used to work together, I felt that we always had very high standards of design, delivery, client relationships, really mastering the art of architecture to being a good professional. And that had been a huge benefit for me when I started on my own, because not everybody behaves like that.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have your own standards, I start realizing that, most people, they don't have standards that are like that. So I'm very thankful that I was able to experience that, learn it, make it part of my own process. And now that's the baseline I have today to continue growing my company.
Yeah, I think the words that come to my mind are like quality and craftsmanship.
Yeah. I remember that.
I love the idea of architecture and design as being a craft. And as part of being a craftsman comes quality, and that's I love, walking through a completed space, and we still end up kind of nitpicking, you can stand in the most beautiful, project that we just completed, and you still kind of look at that one detail and you're like, yeah, we can do that one better, on the next project.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that's constant.
And that's one of the other things that I try to capture and tell people the story about the power of design. It's not only about visual, That's a huge part of what we do. The experience, the aesthetics, but there is a lot more than that. The client relationships, the project management, the strategy, idea solving. There are many things that are abstract, that they don't have a shape, or they're not visual, and that's still design. That's the power of design right there.
Absolutely. Jack, I've been inspired by the years, just through like some of the diagramming and so forth that you've done on your website around your brand and kind of who you are and so forth. And, just in terms of the conversations amongst my team, at Lowe's on the corporate facilities team, we've got kind of three big bubbles that we have. Now, we haven't necessarily tagged them as the power of design, but, to me, there's a parallel. And for us, the three big areas of focus are, number one, associate experience. And just to dig into that one a little bit, we of course want our corporate facilities to create a great experience. We want them to feel joy in their workspace. We want them to, have their functional needs met. We want to create great associate experiences through the workplace. Number two is design thinking, which I know is probably largely inspired by some of the themes that you bring.
Sure.
We want to apply design thinking to all of our assignments. So even if a customer, for example, an internal customer comes to us with a request and says, "Hey, I'd like this moved over here," or "I'd like a different office configuration, a different conference room configuration." What we like to do is to not only take the request kind of on its surface, but also to dig deeper and say, well, what is really the root of this request? What could we do to elevate the request to not only provide what they're asking for, but also to provide, even above and beyond what they're asking for in some cases. And then that third bubble for us is technical excellence. Even as an owner, quote unquote, ownership team, and we're on the corporate facilities team. My team still needs to be responsible for things like, door hardware. And are we putting all the right locks and latches on every single door, and coordinating with our maintenance team to make sure that, all of the thermostats are correctly documented, and that we're putting the right LED light fixtures in the space, and, all of that kind of stuff. So my team has a huge kind of technical quality assurance, role as well, just in their kind of day to day.
Sure. Traveling back in time to your early beginnings.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I'd love to know the story about, how did you come about architecture? Why did you go into architecture? How was your journey through school? And, give me a quick summary of how did you go from high school, not knowing much, to where you are today?
Yeah. Well, it's funny, even, my mom kept for me a baby book, right? I don't know. Did you have a baby book, Jack?
No.
Nope.
I need to talk to my mom.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah.
Where's my baby book?
No, we had a baby book. And I think even when I was like 2 years old, it asks, what you want to do for your occupation. And for probably the first 10 years of my life, every single year, I answered the question that I wanted to be a carpenter. I always loved working with wood and, building things. And of course, I had Legos and erector sets and, all that kind of stuff. And we also lived near the woods. So I was always like building forts and stuff out of sticks and scrap wood that I could find. And then, when I got to high school, then I was able to take things like wood shop and drafting classes and so forth. My school offered an award each year, which was the Golden Compass and the Golden Hammer.
Wow.
And it was big time. And this was in the I grew up in Talmadge, Ohio, which is a suburb of Akron, Ohio. And I won multiple awards, in high school, around kind of woodworking and so forth. I was never really too interested in metals. They also had a golden ball peen hammer. But I never pursued that one. I don't know why. Just metals, never really got into it too much. And I think it was in high school too, where and again, this was, remember, this was Akron, Ohio. So in Akron, Ohio, there is still legitimately 6 months of winter, each year. I started to realize that boy, if I really want to be a carpenter, because carpenters have to do a lot of outside work as well, and I'm like, boy, I'm going to freeze my tail off.
That's right.
During the winter months. And so I started getting interested in drafting. And I started taking drafting classes, and I figured out that I could marry up my interest in construction, with a drafting and a technical, component of that. So it created the natural marriage. I decided that I wanted to be an architect.
Yeah.
And, quite frankly, I was one of the, I guess you could say, the lucky ones or whatever. I went to college, I applied for architecture school. I got in, and, I was basically taking, I think when I showed up, I went to Kent State for undergrad. And I think my very first class on day one of college was my architecture studio course. And so, I never had to switch majors, or anything along those lines. It's just been
straight line.
It's been a straight line of architecture for years,
Wow.
And it's going to continue that way. I'm on, I am, part of a corporate facilities group now. And, I still, of course, maintain my architecture license. And, I know, for example, my AIA, renewal just came in the mail. And,
That's right.
My wife's like, are you going to pay to renew that? And I'm like, heck yes, I'm going to pay to renew that.
That's
I'm
your
an
identity,
architect,
man. That's right.
So it's been a lot of fun.
So you went to Kent State and you graduated, and then what happened?
So the other thing too, and I mentioned my wife earlier. So Michelle, I met her at Kent State as well. So she was also in architecture, and still is. She was basically on the exact same trajectory that I've been on. And so after we both graduated with Kent with our bachelor's degree, we got married at that point in the summer of, that would have been 98. And then we decided to take off for Berkeley. And we loaded up a U-Haul and went across the country, and ended up going to UC Berkeley for grad school.
Wow.
It was, and we ended up living in Berkeley for 5 years. I'll tell you a funny story too about how, just that whole selection process. I think I knew that I wanted to go to grad school right away. And so I ended up applying to 4 or 5 different schools, and I got accepted at, I think, 3 of them. And so the ones that I thought were real viable options for us was Michigan and Berkeley, right? So now I grew up, like I said, in the Akron, Ohio area. So Michigan seemed at the time very realistic to me. It's 3 hours away from my hometown. You hop in the car, you're far enough away from, family and so forth, to get that college experience in. And so anyways, so Michelle and I, we go up, I think we go up to Michigan one day up there in Ann Arbor, and we're checking out the campus. And it's a beautiful campus. Ann Arbor is an amazing college town. They've got a great, kind of Main Street area with all the, college shops and so forth. And we bought Michigan T-shirts, sweatshirts. I sent Michigan a check for $100 saying I'll be there in the fall. Here's my commitment money. And so anyways, But I just had this little voice in my head at the time. And it's funny, what I always tell people is, I spent $40. My application fee to UC Berkeley was $40. And I said, Michael, you spent $40 on an application to Berkeley. You got accepted, and now you're just going to dismiss it and go to Michigan? And so I hopped on an airplane. I ended up spending probably $400 on a trip. And my purpose in the trip was to go to Berkeley, check it out, figure out, whatever it was I maybe wouldn't like about it, and validate my Michigan decision.
Right.
And happily go to Michigan. Well, it worked out totally the opposite of that. I got to Berkeley. It was amazing. I mean, and nothing against Ann Arbor, but it's also Detroit versus San Francisco.
Yeah.
The Golden Gate Bridge is there. The Golden Gate Bridge, by the way, is the most spectacular, amazing structure that mankind has ever built, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And I think it was actually cheaper to go to Berkeley than it was Michigan. It just happened to be on the other side of the country. So shortly after that trip, I ended up changing my commitment plans. I never got the $100 back from Michigan though. But we ended up changing up our plans and went out to Berkeley instead. So.
Wow. So what kind of things did you learn after, you start studying at Berkeley? What did you see that it was a surprise for you that you didn't see in that undergrad?
Just first off, the two different schools that I went to were very different from one another, one being in Kent, Ohio, and the other in California in the Bay Area, so just from a cultural standpoint, they were radically different. One thing I will say too, it's funny because I remember, even when I was doing my grad studies, the projects that I was working on, even in school, some of them were commercial projects. Some of them were like cultural, like library type projects. I think I even did a few things kind of in the residential, space as well. My entire career has been commercial architecture, basically. I've done a few little residential things here and there, but by and large, it's been commercial. And, I was trying to think back at what point in my career did I actually decide that I wanted to do commercial?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I remember, graduating, and usually you graduate in like the May timeframe, and I pretty quickly got a job. And this was in the year 2000. And I got a job to go work for RMW, Robinson, Mills, and Williams Architects in downtown San Francisco. And they just happened to be basically they're really well known for doing, Silicon Valley, .com, commercial architecture, and of course some of this is kind of, the year 2000
sure.
kind of time frame that I'm talking about. But I just happened to get hired at a firm that did commercial work, and I think that I really think that in many ways, that one decision set a trajectory that has basically kept my career, and yes, of course, if I really had a passion for residential projects, of course, somewhere along the way, I probably would have made that switch, but I've just always had a passion for commercial, office, type projects. And I think it stemmed from those early years just after graduation.
Sure. Yeah.
So
I remember when we used to work together. Well, first time when we met was at night. You were interviewing me for a position.
Yeah. Oh,
so
my goodness.
how did I do?
Oh, man. Oh, Jack. Well, yeah, you did great, of course. I think I was on the interview committee for
That's
that.
right. Yeah.
And yeah, no, dude, I remember working together with you. I mean, one of your signature projects I know from those years that we worked together was when you were working on the SPX headquarters.
That's right.
And talk about a project that involved quality and craftsmanship, and just the way that you executed on that project, was incredible. And I really enjoyed those years. And what I really enjoyed too, you've been an amazing friend, even after, we've both left, that place that we were at. And, we remain amazing friends.
I know. And it was interesting because, I witnessed a big part of your career, and I've always saw you, very focused on the technical side. So you were always very careful that the details were taken care of, that you have enough information, and then that started evolving into a more communication management, managing fees, managing money, managing people, and seeing that transition. There are two different things, but you quickly transition into that and started seeing what were the strengths that you had within that area.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say are one of the natural abilities that you have that makes you good at what you do?
Oh, man. I think, I've already kind of mentioned about quality and attention to, I would say attention to detail is definitely one of them. I try to bring balance to my work.
No, that's a good.
Because the thing is that, you can be super focused on every single little detail, but then also completely wear out your team in doing it, know? And so you have to balance and say, okay, you could probably work another day making those drawings even more perfect than they are now. But is it worth it?
That's right.
And it's a constant balance, and sometimes I love just, establishing a deadline and then, take a few days, think about it, put it on a 5-day review, if you will, and come back and hit it one more time. One of the things that I've always enjoyed is some of the times on projects we've had like a 99% set, where we issue a 99% set, and then we spend another 2 or 3 weeks kind of reviewing that, that set for quality assurance, so that you kind of have that kind of break time in there. I would say, I grew up when I'll tie some of this back again to some of the education that I got earlier in my life. When I was in school for architecture, they taught me that an architect should be balanced, basically. Mm-hmm. That an architect should be able to do the design, should be able to do the technical, should be able to do the business side of it, the financials, the client relationship. To me, that's the architect's architect. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, whenever somebody said, "Oh, you're a technical person," or "Oh, you're a project manager," I was always like, No, I'm not. I'm an architect. Yeah. I want to do all of these things, and of course we have to do it as a team, but yeah, just kind of being pigeonholed into one particular, axis, wasn't really of interest to me too much.
The Power of Design podcast is brought to you by Osa Studio, a multidisciplinary design firm Focused on creating impactful experiences through the power of design, we partner with our clients to create buildings, interior spaces, brands, and strategies that help you deliver a successful project. As a minority-owned firm, we are committed to building a diverse platform of curious and driven design professionals so we can together pursue our full potential. For more information, please visit us at www.osastudio.com.
Now that you're in this new role, but you have this, amazing background and experience, what's your vision for your career within this new context that you are? Because I think you have a lot of leverage, you have a lot of advantage, just being so many years looking at the same built environment from a different point of view.
Absolutely.
So how do you see your role and your goals within the position you have today?
Well, first off, I'm still very much in the early kind of learning stages of my role still. I think it's called drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
One might say.
That's right.
I'm still very much in that mode. I will say, Lowe's is an incredible company. I love working there. The people, the culture. I just every time a Lowe's commercial pops up on TV, I'm always like, that's,
you get up and bow.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I work there. I'm part of that. So. That part of it is super exciting. I think Lowe's right now is 31st on the Fortune, 500 list. So really, the sky's the limit for us.
Right.
I could, I have all sorts of ideas that we're starting to work on about how we might, transform the workplace. How we might, think more, and deeper about associate experience and, the types of workplace strategies that we might, be researching, moving forward. There's just all sorts of new territory that we could possibly get into. We have to continue to contemplate what work is going to look like as the pandemic continues to play out. I'm in a position now where I can, provide, thought leadership in all of those areas. Yes, it is a corporate, environment as well. So, you have to recognize that even though you've got ideas and they might be great ideas, but you also have to be able to sell your ideas.
That's right.
And it's, at the end of the day, it's still, it takes, it's a group, there's a process. And quite frankly, that's actually what's really cool about it. I love the challenge of saying, hey, okay, Michael, if you have an idea about this one, thing over here. What are the steps that you have to go through to make that idea a reality?
Yeah.
That's actually a really fun part of the job.
Yeah. And, to make all those things happen, you cannot do it yourself. You have to have a team, and you mentioned you're building an amazing team. Tell me about how you approach building a team. What kind of people do you think are aligned with, the culture and the philosophy? And then how do you motivate and nurture, that talent to take them to the next level?
Absolutely. I think one thing that's really unique about our corporate facilities team at Lowe's is, so first of all, we're sort of split into two different teams, if you will. We actually sit right next to each other. On the one hand, you have our kind of maintenance team that is responsible for maintaining our existing assets. And then there's the team that I'm responsible for, which is the design and construction team. So my team is responsible for, hiring architects, engineers, and we're hiring contractors to build new spaces. When there's something that needs to be changed or transformed about our facilities. And one thing that is really unique, I think, about the design team at Lowe's is, well, first of all, we're called a design team. Everybody on my team, and this is quite honestly, I got to give props to my boss, Troy Saunders, and he is an amazing leader at Lowe's. He's responsible for all of the corporate facilities, both the maintenance side and the design side. But he had this vision that he wanted to hire architects and interior designers to fill all of these roles. So every single person on my team, just about, there's a few exceptions here and there, most of the team is composed of either architects or interior designers, which I think is just a really fun way to build the team. We are constantly talking about things like design thinking. We were talking about going onto LinkedIn and researching about, what is company X, Y, and Z currently doing from a workplace, design, standpoint, even when we talk about things like, schematic design development, construction documents, we all speak the same language,
right.
And so I think it's a really, really unique thing. I think about the other corporate facility groups that I worked with, throughout my sort of architectural career. And yes, some of them had a few designers, I'll say, on their team, but not always the day-to-day project managers that you were working with. They weren't necessarily architects or engineers, but at Lowe's, that's what we have.
I've seen that a lot, where many different businesses that are not specifically design firms, but they touch the design field. Mm-hmm. They start hiring architects or designers,
right?
To be project managers or to be product reps for, architectural products, because, you're speaking to the same community, so you know how to align with them. And also they take advantage that I will think that the architecture profession is very underpaid. So they offer more money and more benefits, because I think that's one of the problems our profession have right now, that is very undervalued in society. And historically, architects have not been able to maintain or communicate the real value they bring to the marketplace and being compensated.
Right. Yeah, that has been an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I started in architecture back in 2000, like I said earlier, I think test fits were supposed to be like 10 cents a square foot. And that was 20 years ago. Now I think they're 8 cents a square foot.
Oh my gosh. I thought they were 12.
Yeah.
I've been overcharging.
Or just free, free. Like you should you should be so lucky to have the right to do this test fit.
I know, it's crazy. It's just it's very common and culturally in our profession that it's okay to give away for free your service, even if it's very small. Like, you go to a store and get something for free. See if they let you take a candy for free.
Yeah.
You have to pay for it.
Yeah.
In our profession, it's like culturally accepted that, you give away for free your advice, your ideas, your design. Could be small, could be big. Sometimes we've designed whole projects for free.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, honestly, we talk about this as a team as well. I mean, one of the guiding principles that I want our team to be operating under is respect and fairness towards everybody, towards all of our vendors, our suppliers, our internal team members. There have been times where we've asked our architectural partners to do something that was, either above scope or maybe we just maybe we wake up one morning and we have a new idea in our heads and we just want to kind of explore it off to the side a little bit. But I tell the team, please send me an invoice, keep track of your time, and charge us for the hours that you put into that. Because we don't want anybody to feel that they've been taken advantage of. Certainly.
Or undervalued. And it's very refreshing because I'm at the other side, and I had a few clients that they say, hey, I know this is not in the scope of services. Make sure you charge me for this. Mm-hmm. And when I hear that, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing, because it's not common.
Yeah.
Typically it's the other way around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like to, obviously, throughout my career, I've had great client experiences and I've had not so great client experiences. And I always think back to the clients that I got along with the best and had the best experiences with. And, I work to emulate them and how they behaved in certain situations. Yeah. And so on and so forth.
Yeah. So most of I would think that your clients are internal clients, right? Are groups within Lowe's. So what would you say is the biggest challenge those internal clients are having today?
I would say as of right now, we're all, still working to figure out how best to respond to the pandemic from a health and wellness standpoint.
Yeah.
We do have associates now and over the next few months that are going to be continuing to return to office. We get a lot of questions about, anytime we make a new announcement about, returning to office, we always get questions about health and wellness. What are you sanitizing? How often are you sanitizing it? Is this going to be safe? What are the cleaning protocols? All of that kind of stuff. So that is definitely, a big area of focus. We are introducing a new hybrid work model. We're going to have some associates working in office, others being flex, others being remote, work from home, associates. And so really it's just working through that whole dynamic. There's a lot of moving parts there, and it's been quite a challenge, but like I said, there's an amazing team that is focused on those types of things. And, we keep learning and refining as we go along. So
with your experience and going through, what we're going through today, how do you see the design and construction industry evolving in the future?
Mm-hmm.
With technology, 3D printer, virtual reality, augmented reality, there are a lot of words out there, BIM, all these things we have experienced. How do you see that evolution happening in the next 10, 20 years?
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like whenever we and I'll relate a little bit back to, what I was doing prior to Lowe's. It seemed like a lot of times the degree to which we brought technology to a project was highly inspired by what the client was requesting. So if the client was requesting, level 500 BIM models or, perfect clash detection, or if the client wanted, 10 walkthroughs of the space, that's what we did, and on the projects that the client wasn't asking for that degree of technology, we sort of did less, right? Now, and of course, there's kind of a minimum baseline that you have to do just from a professional responsibility standpoint, but we weren't giving away, free, walkthroughs either, and I think too, so now in my new role, one of the things that we need to kind of grapple with as a team is to what degree do we want the technology piece integrated into our projects? What should we ask of our architectural partners? Are we going to require that everything be done in BIM? Are we going to require, clash detected Navisworks models? Are we going, I've already required that, I want all of our GCs, for example, to work in some form of an electronic project management platform.
I know.
Submittals and RFIs through the email and whatnot. There's a better way to do it.
That's right. Yeah.
So there's some baseline things like that we're already instituting. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. A lot of times, I mean, honestly, visualization is probably just the best word, right?
Yeah.
I mean, anything we can do to better visualize the design is useful to us, because again, we have to take our plans and our designs, and ultimately they need to be approved, by a business unit, by a leader, by the C-suite, whatever the case may be for that particular project. But we need visualizations in order to do that.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably just the most important thing, I think, would be for the architectural partner to have a conversation with us about what type of visualizations are best suited, for that particular project. Sometimes it might be 3D models, sometimes not,
Sure.
And we just have to tailor it to the project.
Yeah. What do you think is one of the what's one advice you will give to a young architect today who's getting into the profession and they want to make progress and evolve their career quickly?
I mean, honestly, I will say, I'm gonna throw out the word ideas. Okay. Honestly, I've kind of started to form a little bit of an opinion that I think ideas are at a premium.
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, when you're young in your career and when you're just out of school and so forth, and I mean, you're full of ideas, and we need ideas. I mean, everything that we do. I mean, every single meeting that I'm on, I'm always like yearning for, well, what's the idea?
Yeah.
What is the thing that's going to turn it from like ordinary into extraordinary, and so I would advise for the younger generation to just continue to embrace their ideas, and I know we were talking earlier about how sometimes you tend to branch out into different areas of specialty maybe, or expertise, and that some people gravitate more towards being technical designers, or other people gravitate towards being project managers. But, I'd like to encourage everybody to run towards design, because we need ideas.
Yeah. What does the power of design mean to you?
What does the power of design mean to me?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, first of all, I love the phrase. I mean, it's very cool, and I know that you've adopted that, Jack. For your business, and no, it's incredible. I mean, I'm gonna, honestly, those items that we mentioned earlier about associate is what we call our Lowe's, team members, but basically the user experience, the design thinking, bringing technical excellence to our projects. I mean, the power of design is that joy factor. I remember, this is a little bit of an unusual example. You're probably familiar with the book Le Corbusier wrote, Towards a New Architecture.
Yeah. And
in that book, he talks about how an engineer might design a railway or a train station or something like that. And it talks about how, making it, if you make it functional, like, yes, it'll work and function is important. But then Le Corbusier says, but you haven't touched my heart, and he says, he wants architecture to enter in, and that once architecture enters in to the design of even a railway, I think is the illustration that he's kind of making there. I should have brought the actual quote with me here, but he says art enters in, and you touch my heart.
Man, that's powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I've been inspired by that paragraph, that page. I have it highlighted, but yeah, the idea of art entering in and creating inspiration and joy in what we do, to me, that's the power of design.
100%. I agree with that 100%. Well, Michael, thank you so much for your time. I've known you for 11 years, and I'm always very inspired when I talk to you. You're my friend.
Likewise.
I love you, man. I enjoy
Same
your
here.
company. I'm very excited about your future, and I'm very thankful for your friendship and everything you have done for me. And I look forward to see where we're going.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack. Really appreciate it. And certainly, you are building an amazing company. I know you were showing me even just a little bit earlier the successes that you've had. And boy, I'll tell you, man, you're on a great trajectory. So yeah, keep it up.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to the Power of Design podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review if you like this content. And find us online at thepowerofdesignpodcast.com. I invite you to join my mission to become a better version of yourself through the power of design.